Absolutely.
And welcome to the Peapod here in Universalist Church. Peapod UU sits on the traditional land of the Catawba, the Yahweh, and Chippewa peoples. My name is Ann from Titus, and I will be the worship assistant this morning for our Reverend Dr. Amy. We are a flourishing, vibrant, and radically welcoming community, which promotes diversity, inclusion, and social justice. We provide a safe haven for creative intellectual growth, spiritual development, and a deep sense of community for all who join us. We hope our liberal religious values will challenge you to join us as a community that lives boldly and acts justly. To all our ministers, to all our visitors and members, we are very glad you're here, in person or with us online, and we hope to see you again. Your presence is a gift to us. I have a few announcements. Our congregational meeting is after worship today. We ask all members to please stay for this important meeting. We will have a memorial service for Ron F. from our Salisbury gathering this Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Salisbury Worship Space. Our Covenant of UU Pagans group, Cubs, is hosting a Lammas observance at 7 o'clock this Saturday night here at the University Gathering. Everyone is welcome to attend. Reverend Amy is offering 2 classes for people interested in learning more about the church and possible membership. She will offer UU 101 about UU history, beliefs, and rituals a week from Monday at 7 o'clock via Zoom. The second class will be from 2 weeks from Saturday on the spiritual journey. Please let Reverend Amy know if you are interested. During the month of August, the Social Action Team will be sponsoring a special collection for Time Out Youth's Life Essentials Closet. We will have a collection bin out for each of the 5 Sundays beginning August 3rd. Suggested items are listed today in the insert in your order of service. For other important information about our vibrant community, please see your order of service, or if you are on our email list, please check our monthly newsletter and weekly announcements. Whatever brought you to this space at this hour, we welcome you. May you find something that you need, and may you be richer in spirit than when you arrived.
Our chalice lighting words today are from Deborah Falk. The chalice lit among us is a beacon of hope in a world of crisis, a beacon of possibility made manifest in community, a beacon of warmth through our interconnections, a beacon of light illuminating our shared wisdom, a beacon of connection by our being together. Please join me now in singing the words to lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith.
May we find
I invite you to please rise in body or spirit for our call to worship, which is found in your bulletin. Here in this sanctuary of ancient dreams and wisdom and beauty, we come to grow, to be healed, to stretch mind and heart, to be challenged, renewed, to be helped in our own continuing struggles for meaning and for love, to help build a world with more justice and mercy in it, to be counted among the hopers and the doers.
In the face of cynicism, darkness, brutality around us and within, we seek to align ourselves with a living community that would affirm rather than despair, that would think and act rather than simplify just as outcome.
Here we invite the spirit of our own humanity and the healing powers under, around, through, and beyond it, to give us the nerve and grace, the toughness and the sensitivity, to search out the truth that frees and the life that makes all things new. Our first hymn is found in our gray hymnal, number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Young ones to come up for our time for all ages with Miss Madia.
Good morning. I'm just going to give some time for some people to get up here to join me. Hello, hello. It's good seeing you. Okay, so I wanted to show off to everybody Amelia Pighart's brand new jetpack that was made for her last week in RE. Can everyone give our young artists a round of applause? Harley, would you like to hold Amelia for me right now? So, our jet pig, Amelia Pighart, is here this week to talk to you all in our RE class about pluralism, which is a really big word. And to be completely frank, most adults don't even know what it means. I had to do a lot of reading to make sure I really understood what it meant. And to help you understand it, we're going to make some pizza. Okay? So, I have, in my little hand here, some pizza printouts. Can you take one and then pass it all the way around so then everybody can get one? Grab yours. Ellie, help me out by passing that out to everybody else, please. Thank you so much. And here are some markers. And I want you to build your dream pizza, any toppings you want. And only the toppings you like. Yeah, if you don't like a topping, don't put it on there. If you have a favorite topping, make sure you put it on there, right? Some people like pineapple on their pizza, but not everybody. That's really divisive. That's really divisive. I'm Italian, I'm not supposed to like pineapple on my pizza, but I gotta let you know I do. It's good, okay? I don't put it on all pizzas, just very special pizzas that need pineapple. Some people can't eat cheese. cheese because they're lactose intolerant, so they get pizza without cheese. Good, I'm glad you like cheese. There's a lot of different things you can put on your pizza. Sausage, pepperoni, peppers, mushrooms. What?
Bacon.
Can I say bacon?
Bacon? Somebody cover Amelia Pinkert's ears. Bacon, anchovies, that's another divisive one.
Ew.
Some people really don't like anchovies. Mushrooms, those are good on a pizza. What do you all like on your pizzas? Olives, very nice. Jonah, what do you like on a pizza? Pepperoni. Anybody else like pepperoni on their pizza? Show of hands who likes pepperoni on their pizza. All right, so now you might be thinking, Miss Nadia, what does pluralism and pizza have to do with each other? Well, I will tell you. So according to the UUA, they have defined pluralism as a UU value as we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. So let's talk about what that means with pizza. We are all individual people. Pizza is a widely liked food. I met very few people who don't like pizza. Almost everyone I talk to likes some form of pizza, but we all have our own individual likes that we put on our pizza. Not everybody likes pineapple. Not everybody likes onion. Not everybody likes peppers. Not everybody likes mushrooms, right? Not everybody likes all of these things. But does having that on a pizza make it a bad pizza? No. You don't like onions? Me either. The only bad pizza in existence is a pizza that's gone moldy, right?
Ew.
Same thing with food. The only bad food is food that is literally bad for you to eat because you will get sick, like moldy pizza. So, pluralism is this theory and belief that many things can be true at once. You can experience something many different ways. There is no one way to live your life. There is no one way to believe in whatever divine belief you have. And we, as UUs, believe that as long as we are living with love at the center and leading through love, that we can all coexist with each other. Kind of like how we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different pizzas up here. And all these pizzas look like good pizzas to me. All of these pizzas can exist at a pizza party because everybody's going to find something different in a different pizza. All right, you get to take these pizzas home. You get to keep them forever and ever and ever if you so wish. You do not need to give them to me. At this time, we are going to stand up. Our little ones are going to head to the nursery. Our older kids and teens can come with me to the RE classroom where we are going to continue talking about pluralism. I know you're 4, you're headed to the nursery. Are you ready? Let's go. I know you're 3, that's why you're headed to the nursery. That's okay.
This friendly place, all is light to every face. May the kindness which we bless light on us till we return.
I made a pizza, but I'm gonna cut. I just made a little bit of some blueberries sliced up in a line and the flavor.
I'm with Carly. I'm just ready to eat some pizza. I don't know about y'all, but
I'm with blueberry.
and yeah, I'm really hungry for pizza. And I keep thinking about dessert pizza. I don't know else like dessert pizza. Yeah, okay, maybe some peaches and brown sugar. Okay, we're gonna stop talking about food. We have other things to do, and I know I can't eat for a little while, so I'm gonna. But it's wonderful to be here with all of you, and as we move towards our time for the service for ritual and sacred sharing, a time where we share joys and sorrows, also concerns and milestones. So for this week, we light candles. We light candles first for Susan B. with her ongoing health concerns. We light a candle of thanksgiving for all of our children and youth. We light a candle in memory of Ron as we celebrate his life later this week. We light a candle for everyone who is being impacted by ICE raids and imprisonments. For all who are suffering in Gaza and for the immediate relief of these conditions. For all areas of violence around the world, and especially Haiti, the Sudan, the Middle East, and the war in Ukraine. For our country, that we might continue to work towards a society where every person is valued. For a society which is filled with love, empathy, civil rights, and justice for every single person. Now at this time you are invited to come forward as you feel called to do so. You may come forward along the far wall. We have our prayer stand where you may fill out a prayer card to place on the stand. You may light your own candle of joy or concern, or you may place a stone in our shared water together. more candles for the things we hold in our hearts, which remain unspoken, and also for those who are joining us virtually to honor what is in their hearts as well. I invite us now into a time for quiet rest, meditation, or prayer. I will sound the singing bowl, and then during this time of silence, I invite us to simply settle more fully into our seat, to deepen our breath, and as you breathe in and out more slowly, ask for what it is you need this morning. If you would like to have more peace or joy in your life, then invite that in to your being with every breath. So as we take our time to deeply breathe in and then to exhale, let us welcome into our heart what we need this morning and exhale what we would like to share with the world.
these are some selected quotes from Emma by Jane Austen. Seldom, very seldom, does complete truth belong to any human disclosure. Seldom can it happen that something is not a little disguised or a little mistaken. Better be without sense than misapply it as you do. Vanity working on a weak head produces every sort of mischief. Wickedness is always wickedness, but folly is not always folly. It is very difficult for the prosperous to be humble. Respect for right conduct is felt by everybody. What is right to be done cannot be done too soon.
So today we arrive at our third sermon in the series of spirituality and story as found in the novels of Jane Austen. During this year where in December we celebrate the 250th birth date for Jane Austen, and there's so many wonderful things taking place about in the Austen world, which I'm sure some of y'all are hearing about in other places too. So our focus today for this third novel is the story of Emma. Emma is the only novel that she names after a specific individual. And the book begins with these memorable words. Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence, and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. Now that should give you an indication. If the main character has had very little to distress or vex her, we know what's coming, don't we? There's going to be a lot to distress and vex her. And this novel certainly takes us for a ride. Now this novel, Emma, is unique in various ways from Austen's other novels. Now of the primary protagonists we see throughout her work, Emma is definitely the one who has the most wealth and power. The character of Emma is at the pinnacle of society in her country village, and she has a great deal of control of her own life and world. Now, in the book, Emma's mother died before she was even a teen, and due to the timidity of her father and older sister, Emma was the one who filled the vacuum of her mother's loss. She was the one who took over running the household and being in control of what was taking place, not just in her household, but ultimately in the village, all around her. Now, she did have a governess, Miss Taylor, and Miss Taylor, whose job was to guide her, did that somewhat, but was not fully able to control a very bright and confident young charge. And I think any of us who've been parents, a lot of us have had kids that we couldn't always control a very bright and confident young adult, right? Now the household of this status and this time period would need someone who would run it. With the level of the wealth that the Woodhouse family held, it was a very large home with extensive grounds and a number of servants. And Emma, from a very young age, was equal to running this house well and smoothly. She also assumed leadership for all the charity work and other work around in the neighborhood. So her sister soon married well to a neighbor, and they moved to London for his law practice. And so that's the background. And then the book begins with a very wonderful, happy event. Miss Taylor, Emma's governess, who had really been more her friend and confidant for a number of years, is married. Now, Emma had had the lucky thought that Miss Taylor and a gentleman neighbor, Mr. Weston, might make a match, and they did. Miss Taylor becomes Mrs. Weston, just living a mile away, but Emma finds herself a bit lonely, probably a bit bored at the opening of this book. Now, she still sees Mrs. Weston almost every day, but Mr. Woodhouse is a bit of a hypochondriac and certainly cannot match Emma's intelligence. So home is more of a place that she oversees and runs smoothly, more so than one where companionship is found. Now, they have another long-standing neighbor, Mr. Knightley. And at this juncture, he becomes even more important to Emma. Apart from Mrs. Weston, Knightley is the only one who really is able to offer advice to Emma. And he's not afraid to do that, even when it's unsolicited, but necessary. So we have this intelligent, a bit lonely, a bit bored young woman who decides that her matchmaking lucky guess for her friend, now Mrs. Weston, might as well be used for the benefit of others in her matchmaking skills. I think we can see where this does not go well. It goes just about as well as you could imagine. And this book has so much humor, much more so than her other books. All her books are filled with some great wit. But this is one where we end up laughing out loud so many times. There's a wonderful 1996 movie adaptation which starred Gwyneth Paltrow, which does a great job of showing the humor of this very well-intentioned young woman. Now, 30 years ago, in fact, 30 years ago, just a couple weeks ago, there was a great movie that came out. I know Ann and I have been talking about this. So Amy Heckerling set this novel in 1995 Beverly Hills with a movie that could not have been more perfectly named, called Clueless. Emma was clueless. Very intelligent, well-intentioned, with a good heart, but clueless about the human dynamics taking place all around her. That is Emma. Now, as we like to say here in the South, bless her heart. Of course, I'm sure most of us know about where the path of good intentions leads. Emma causes some real harm around her. Knightley tells her at one point that it's better to be without sense than misapply it as she does. Now, so many things go wildly awry in the book. Towards the end, she finally realizes the error of her ways. And Austen writes these words at this moment. With insufferable vanity had Emma believed herself in the secret of everybody's feelings. With unpardonable arrogance, proposed to arrange everybody's destiny. She was proved to have been universally mistaken, and she had not quite done nothing, for she had done mischief. Now, as we think about how the story of Emma can enhance our own spiritual journey, it's so important for us to understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Emma had a great deal of knowledge. She was a very intelligent young woman, but she had so much to learn about wisdom. So for us today, how can we open ourselves to wisdom? You know, we live in a world where knowledge seems to be pervasive, We all have these little devices we carry, right? And on the retreat I was on with a friend of mine in Santa Fe in recent days, there were times that there was something we were trying to remember, oh, let's just Google it, right? We can always just figure something out, some kind of knowledge. And of course, it's not easy also to decipher between what is true knowledge, what is false knowledge in today's world. We have to do our homework. But as we are surrounded by so much knowledge, so much information, wisdom, true wisdom, can be quite elusive. So how do we open ourselves for wisdom? Firstly, we realize how limited our own wisdom really is. This is always the beginning of wisdom. When we think we have all the answers, or most of them, that is really when we know nothing. Emma is a prime example of someone who is being smart but not very wise. True wisdom begins when we realize how little we actually know. Secondly, we listen. We listen. Boy, that's a difficult thing in today's world, where people want to share their own opinion, who want to give whatever they think they might know to someone else. To listen. The first step to wisdom is an inner acknowledgement of how little we know, and the second one is an action, the action of listening. Theologian Paul Tillich wrote that the first duty of love is to listen. The first duty of love is to listen. Now, as Madia reminded us in our Time for All Ages, as you use, we know at the center of our values, the center of our spiritual journey, we hold love. Love is always at the center. Who we are as individuals, who we are as a community, as a church family. When we hold love there at the center, it is so much easier to listen than it is to speak. When we listen, we are called to listen deeply. It's not just hearing words. It's about going much more deeply than that. To listen deeply is to read between the lines, to look for what is unsaid, to actively seek out what others in the world can teach us, to see what is said not with the mouth, but with the body and other ways that people speak to us. And listening deeply is also important to seek out a diverse group of people. Listening to others who seem like us, we're going to hear a lot of the same thing that we already think we might know. Wisdom will deepen and be enhanced by truly listening to others who are coming from a very different place than we are. Listening is an action that takes a lot of work. And there are studies that say that to truly hear someone, we need to speak about 10% to the 90% of when we are listening. So with our spiritual journey toward wisdom, we first should recognize how little we actually know. We secondly should actively listen. And thirdly, we open ourselves to new experiences, especially if we might feel a little uncomfortable in them. Wisdom so often comes from discomfort, from placing ourselves in positions which are not really familiar, where we don't have control over the situation. Now, during my years as a college chaplain, we had an interfaith council, and we would sponsor regular routine trips to different houses of worship. And it was always scary for students to go to a different place of worship. Some of y'all know what that feels like, just walking through this door, right? It feels a little scary the first time you come in here, first couple times, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen, or is there some kind of thing that everyone knows to do that I don't know to do? Scary. Now, for these students, when we would take these groups, these little kind of mini field trips, everything was within about 20 minutes in Winston-Salem. We would always do some prep work about, well, this is a place where you need to take off shoes, right, when you go in. So you might want to have some socks on, or some good socks, or this might be a place where it's important for us to have some kind of scarf or something to cover our head. Or just if we're going to be eating a meal with people, to know, well, there's not going to be any meat at this meal, for instance. There's so many different things that we would talk about, and we would prepare our students as best we could. And still, taking that final step to being open and immersing themselves in a situation which was new to them. It offered so much more wisdom than simply reading a book or studying about it, or even just talking with someone who had been in that worship space. It takes courage. It takes courage to open ourselves up to situations, communities, places which are new to us and which might feel very different. The path to wisdom absolutely is one that takes a lot of courage. So we follow the path to wisdom when we first realize how little we actually know. Second, when we actively listen. Third, when we are open to new experiences. And lastly, when we engage in mindful living. Now, mindful living means that we are very intentional in how we live. We don't go through each day just kind of going through the steps, doing what needs to be done. We are aware and intentional in how we live each day. We take time for things which are important and which increase wisdom, things like meditation, prayer, ritual, journaling, sacred living. We are thoughtful and intentional in our daily lives. We're not like some little chipmunk which is skittering around from place to place. We instead understand that all life is sacred. Whether it's the daily mundane practice of living, like changing a diaper, or doing the dishes, cleaning our laundry, whatever those things are we have to do each day, that is sacred, as well as sacred acts like setting time aside for worship and being in spiritual community. Every person, every creature we encounter is sacred. From the bird outside our window to the person who's taking a really long time in a grocery checkout line. Mindful living allows a pace of life that no matter what is happening around us, in our own day-to-day interactions or around the world around us, mindful living allows a space and a pace of life that creates time, opportunity for wisdom to enter. Now, there's a great deal more I could say about wisdom, okay? This is just very few highlights. And hopefully these small steps can help us along this journey, this lifelong journey. No one of us ever arrives at the place of wisdom. It's a lifelong process, opportunities for growth and new life along each step of the way. Now, when reading Emma, even though she's had an epiphany about her life at the end of the book, Emma's who she is. She's a strong character. She's going to continue to make mistakes and not live in wise ways. Hopefully, with this big epiphany she's had, she'll start to realize that. Knightley's certainly going to help her continue to try to be aware of those things, and she will grow in wisdom and not hopefully repeat some of the mistakes she's made. She's going to continue to struggle to learn wisdom, as we all do, as opposed to simply using her natural intellect. Now, along our own journeys, it's always a struggle to learn wisdom, to open the spaces for that. And just like Emma, we too have dear companions who can help encourage us along this path of opening ourselves to wisdom. So let us continue this journey with our dear companions. Let us continue and be open to the wisdom that creation and others around and that love offers to us. May it be so, blessed be. Amen.
A time for giving. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us. A community of memory and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. This month, we are sharing our offering plate with PFLAG, Salisbury, Maine. Founded in 1973, PFLAG is the nation's largest organization dedicated to supporting, educating, and advocating for LGBTQ plus people and those who love them. PFLAG Salisbury, Rowan was formed in 2006. The Scholarship Foundation was started in 2008, and as of 2024, they have given over $180,000 to deserving Rowan County High School seniors, public, private, and homeschooled, who identify as LGBTQ or as an ally. Our host will pass around the baskets, and we ask that you pass the baskets down your row when you receive it. You may place your gift in the baskets as they make their way around the room, and you're always welcome to give online at puc.org or by texting PUC at the number 73256. Today's offering will now gratefully be received.
Give thanks for these generous gifts from your heart, gifts which enable us to continue to share love throughout this world. I invite you now to please rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn, found in your brave hymnal, number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
Thank you.
Extinguish Our Chalice, I offer thanks for all the many volunteers who helped make our service possible this morning. I also ask if, before you leave today, if you can take the hymnals and place them back on the cart near the piano. That's always a big help. So let us do as we do each Sunday towards the close of our service. Let us give thanks, either in our hearts or with words for others to hear, for the things for which we are grateful today.
64th birthday.
64th birthday! Happy birthday to Dad! Yes. Youngster.
Shade trees.
Shade trees, amen, and air conditioning, yes.
For the way to find the Emma in us that we may prove ourselves.
Yes, to find the Emma in us.
We have another birthday here.
I'm celebrating 70.
Happy birthday, Robin, number 70. Yeah.
We bought a house.
Yay! Oh.
Take that.
Well, I want to offer thanks. I was at a retreat in Santa Fe this past week with one of my dear friends, and just a fantastic retreat. And just very thankful for that time.
I'm thankful for all the fur babies I've had in my life, which has made it more beautiful.
Yes, Gail's thankful for all the fur babies she's had in her life. We give thanks for all these things and so much more which we hold in our hearts this morning. Before we receive our closing blessing, I remind everyone that we have a congregational meeting for all the members after the service with some important business. So please stay for that. We'll have a brief coffee fellowship today, and then we'll get started with that. So receive now this closing blessing written by Philip Randall Giles. Now may our wisdom show itself in compassion and understanding, and may the fruits of the Spirit be apparent in our lives. We now extinguish our chalice, but we carry its light, its warmth, and its meaning with us until we meet again. May we go forth in wisdom and believe in wisdom, create wisdom wherever we wander. And for our closing song, we form a circle. You may hold hands if you would like to, or you may simply place your hands on your heart.
We give thanks for this precious day, for gathered near and far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for the gathered near and far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
If we could all get seated, that would be very helpful. Sorry. Where's my whistler? Who whistled before? If we could all get seated, we can start right away at 12:30, please. I hope that was we get seated, please? We're going to start with the chalice lighting at 12:30, so we just need everyone to take a seat. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. What a full house today, huh? Wow. 60. Oh, that's nice. And then all of those online. I don't know where to look for online, Rich. Where is that?
There were 16 people viewing at one point. 16.
Yeah, and the numbers you're hearing now are not quorum numbers, so we have,
But we do have a quorum.
we do have a quorum.
Right.
Yes. We have 31 people attending here and 14 online.
Okay. Yeah, we'll start. Thank you. All right, then we'll start with Amy.
So we began, all of our meetings with the chalice lighting, and I'd like to offer these words. The light of our chalice is our guide. It is a symbol of the divine light within each one of us, which guides us in our free faith. It guides our conscience and our compassion and our drive to change the world for the better. The light guides every decision, the ones of the heart, the ones about social justice and action, and it guides our decisions when we are doing the business of the church as we are today. Today, we give thanks for this light and for its guidance during our congregational meeting. Now, I invite all of us to share together in our covenant of right relations, which you have before us on the slide.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Please light the chalice.
Oh, yes, let's light. Yeah, I'm so used to the worship assistant doing it for me. Thank you so much, Gazette. Now, let us all share in our covenant of right relations. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its prayer. We covenant to honor all spiritual paths with hospitality, to assume the best of one another from our highest selves, to dwell together in peace through kindness, and to serve others with compassion, honoring one another as members of beloved community.
Thanks. Well, I don't know why I'm having trouble. It's just the arrow, correct? It likes Neil.
I thought it was a cricket.
That's good, because I only have one thing. All right, so obviously this is the agenda, which I am not going to read to you. You can see it. We like to keep our meetings on point, so we will do that. Members who have been membership 30 days or more can sign in, and I hope all of you have signed in with either Beth or Elaine or Diane. If you're at home, you text to the number 704-582-9093 with your name. We do have a quorum. And if you want to say something in the meeting, you've got to wait for a mic. We have Elaine and Amanda and Sue running mics to you. Just raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. And if you are online, please text your name and your number and your question. Voting, live stream members, again, text your first and last name and your vote. And in the sanctuary, raise your hand to vote. If you want to say yay or nay, that's fine too, as long as your hand's up, because we will count. I am. Good, it's not just me. So 15 years ago, Rich and I were what I used to like to say called wandering in the wilderness, when Rich said, I think we should find a community. I think we should find a church. And I'm like, are you sure we should? And this many years later, we are truly found a community and companions here. As this chalice lighting that I found on the UUA website expresses, our faith, like a light, illuminates the path before us so that we can face hurt with love, cultivate compassion, live humbly in community, and confront despair with the awe of life. This poem that I found on the UUA website has given me a lot of solace, because it's hard to believe that it was only 6 months ago that we met as a congregation in a congregational meeting. And who knew that the church and its people were going to have to navigate this difficult political environment, and how much we would depend on one another to find joy. Working with other members, I've found, is a great way to make others happy. Being with each other is not only about what I get out of it, it's about what I can give. And I don't have to give much. I just have to show up. Just ask your neighbor sitting next to you if you don't believe me. Aren't you happy I'm here? Not me. Ask your neighbor. Today, more than ever, that's truly important when people are reporting that community is the #1 thing they seek. So when visitors come to our sanctuary, we need to be there to visit, to talk with them. I've been so fortunate to know our board this year. This is Elaine over here, our vice president, and Neil, our treasurer, and Diane, our secretary, in case you don't know these people, and Susan, who is also your finance chair. There she is. And Beth Foreman, who keeps me up to date on all social action stuff, right there. And Harry, who cannot be here right now, and he will remind you that he is co-leader of Building and Grounds. As I look over the faces gathered here, I am so thankful for each one of you, because I know you give so many hours. That's why you're here. If you haven't found a place, I suggest you volunteer for hosting, making coffee on Sunday. We need help on the Building and Grounds. I don't think you will find a team or a committee that won't welcome you with open arms. That's where you will find your space. And that's where you will build your community, by getting to know members in a different way. Remember, just showing up is going to make them happy. We promised in December to be even more transparent about finances, and this is one of those meetings. Plus, Neil is writing a monthly newsletter, which keeps you up to date on the finances. And for those of you, I think everyone in here knows, but if you don't know, the financial reports are posted on the website, and we're getting a new website in the next few months, 1 or 2 months, I think. One of Reverend Amy's initiatives has been to work out of our silos together, and we've really worked hard on that this year. For this meeting alone, think of all the volunteers that have been impacted. Worship, hosts, observers, coffee, live stream, nursery. All have worked together to make this happen today. We promised to start fundraising again, not only to raise money, but to fill our social event calendars. I don't know about you, but when we stopped the auction, my social events kind of went down. And Becky Schisler and her team have rallied as a community to meet some very lofty goals. Please read the weekly announcements for auction items to be offered soon. I know that is Anna here? There she is offering an art project for kids and adults and the whole congregation in August 10th, if you want to put it on your calendar. To make our church as safe as it can be, we have almost completed the 30 tasks that the police recommended that we put in place, like adding blinds to the classroom. If you haven't seen them, they're in there now. And locks on these doors, on the kitchen door, so that we can all hide in the kitchen together should there be a tornado. That's community. Please be on the lookout as we start a conversation with all members about membership. Your board wants to look to the future and consult other churches to guide us on what membership looks like in 2026 and beyond. And we need your input. So there will be town halls offered in Salisbury and in University Gathering and online starting in September.
Hey, Karen,
Yes,
in terms of safety, could you mention about the pull down for police?
there is a pull down for the police out in the hall, which you can pull down, but don't pull it down more than one time because we have to replace it. No, it's really for very serious situations. There's a pull down, you just pull it down and the police will be here.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that everybody should do that, but
No.
I'm aware that other people may use it, and there is some thinking about how we increase our.
Right, exactly. Thank you. The leadership development team brought us a petition to add the role of finding members to attend the General Assembly meetings of the Universalist Unitarian Association, in case you don't know what UUA means. I had to look it up today, actually. I thought it was assembly. Okay, that are held each year. So without delay, this is our first order of business. And it's very self-explanatory. We're going to identify delegates that can attend the UUA General Assembly, and they would be approved by the board. And of course, delegates will be determined by the UUA, by how many members we have. Whenever possible, of course, the delegate positions will be filled. That means that if we can't find people, we can't hold ourselves to this bylaw. But they will, and give it all, their all to find people that will attend the General Assembly. And I just might want to add that that is the assembly, that is the meeting of the national church, and all churches come together there, and we should have a voice and we should have a vote at that General Assembly. So they have brought this petition to us. Questions? Where is the General Assembly? We just had it in June, and it'll be again next June. This year was totally online. So yeah, you're interested? Well, yeah, we got your name.
I can answer that question. Next year is going to be totally virtually, and the following year is going to be on the West Coast. But there's always going to be a virtual component now, and delegates can participate virtually and cast their vote virtually.
Thank you, Beth. Any other questions? All right, then, yes?
Is there a number of delegates based on our membership?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The members, yes. The question is the number of delegates based on our membership? And yes, it is. Okay?
So.
Last year we had 3.
One more question. Is there any provision for financing the delegates' expenses?
Actually, there is. We do provide financing if people so desire. They just have to say that they need it, want it. Correct?
Yes.
Any other question? Okay, then do I hear the yays? Do I hear the nays?
Did we call the vote?
I'm calling a vote. Sorry.
And the vote is. Do you
So
have
you
a
call-
second?
This is the vote.
You call a vote and you ask if there's any discussion, and then you.
I did that. I said, is there any discussion, questions?
Don't you have to have a second? That's.
Oh, yeah, I do need a second. All right.
Second.
So who's calling the vote? Let's put it that way. I'm calling the vote. So who's the second? Ann Lakaitis. Okay, all yays. Thank you. No, we don't have to count if it's a majority. All nays? Okay, then that passes. Thank you. Turning it back to Neil.
But you're not going anywhere, right? You're going to be around.
Yes.
Yes,
No,
good.
I'm going home.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neil Mara. I'm the treasurer and, of course, a board member. So we've got quite a bit of information to share with you. What Anne introduced is the way we're approaching this year is to try to be more open and transparent about finances. So you're going to see some numbers here. You don't have to remember them. They're going to be available anytime you need them on the website. But what we want to do is just bring everybody up to speed on how the church is doing financially at the mid-year point, which is our fiscal year is the calendar year, so the mid-year point was June 30th. And then we're going to talk about some changes in our approach on financing. So let's just dive right in, and let me just cover what we're going to talk about here. So I'm going to do this mid-year update, just a check-in for how we're doing at this point in the year. Then we're going to talk about our situation with finances, just in general, based on some research we've done. Then we're going to talk about this new approach that we are taking in our focus on reducing operating budget deficits, as well as changes in how we're going to be managing the land sale funds and any capital projects that we need going forward. And then lastly, we'll talk about and then vote on a third round of capital projects. For those of you who are new to this, just briefly, we've been doing capital projects for the past 2 years. Round 1 was in December of 2023. Round 2 was July of last year, this time last year, and this is round 3. This is decisions that the board proposes and the congregation approves for the use of money from the sale of some of our land back at the very beginning of 2023. It's land that is now occupied in part by the apartment development that you see below us and around us. So that's what this capital project set is about, and this will be the third round, and we've got a couple of projects on tap for that. So here's a quick look at where we stand. I'm going to try to use this pointer here. Let's see if this works. There we go. You'll see this top number here, pledge income as of June 30th, of course. Basically, we're right on track. If we're halfway through the year and we're at 56%, that's a pretty good place to be. Looking at overall income, which is all sources, not just pledges, and then overall expenses, we're also in a pretty good place. 54%, a little bit over half of the expected income that we are budgeting for this year, and our expenses are a little bit under, 47%. So that's a pretty good place to be. I do want to call attention, however, to this deficit. Now, you're going to see some more numbers about this deficit as we move on, because we started the year with a much higher number, and we'll talk about how we've come to this point where 14.9 or 14.5 is the number we began the year with, and now we're down to 11.3. And that's primarily because of the terrific success of the auction that Karen mentioned, that Becky and the fundraising team put together for us back a few months ago. That's already put a dent in our deficit, and we're looking for ways to continue that process and reduce that $11,000 figure down to 0. Okay, so you're going to hear us talk about that as we go forward. Just a quick additional bit of information. This year we've been tracking our pledge income against really the only measure that we've got good information about, which is what's the average pledge income for each month over the past 7 years. 7 years being the data that we have available. We don't have data, at least consistent data beyond that. And you can see there's a lot of fluctuation, but that's normal. Even in as an average, you see numbers go up and down, and that's pretty typical That's been the case ever since I've been part of this church. When I was treasurer back in the 90s, we still saw this pattern. The summer is when people are away, pledge income declines somewhat, and then it picks up again in the fall. But it's a good way for us to see, well, January actually was extraordinarily good, way above average. So it gives us some idea of how we're doing in overall as we go through the year. Now, if there are questions, please go ahead and ask them. I'll just keep going until I hear questions, okay? So just moving on from here. We do have some good news. You've heard us talk about something called the Employee Retention Credit. It's a program that the IRS managed that was part of the COVID set of stimulus packages and so on at the early part of COVID. And Lisa, who was treasurer, please raise your hand so everybody knows. Thank you to Lisa. She applied for this program, worked through the process. Unfortunately, the IRS fell on some hard times, and it took them a while to get this together. We managed to reach out to Representative Alma Adams earlier this year, who was very helpful. Thank you to Representative Adams. Her staff was terrific in helping us just sort of move this along through the IRS. And so right now, we have just received 5 checks, one for each of 5 quarters during COVID, that total $42,900. This is great news for us, very sorely needed. And what we're going to be doing with it is covering the salary for our lifespan religious education coordinator. Now, we're going to be talking about various different things, and I'm going to refer back to the meeting Karen mentioned, which was the annual meeting, a congregational meeting in December. If you recall, we voted on the need to cover that salary 100% with capital funds. We were hoping that we'd be able to cover part of it and slowly over 3 or 4 years reduce the amount of capital money, but we weren't able to do that this year. So the plan as we began the year is that the money's been coming out of our capital funds, the land sale funds. But now, because this is a board decision that I think makes a lot of sense, because this money is actually a refund of payroll taxes that our church paid for employees during these periods. And so it's employee related. We think it's relevant to use this for one of the key employee needs that we have, which is to cover the cost of this religious education coordinator who did, I thought that was a great job this morning. I really enjoyed that.
You said it was covering this. Oh, sorry. You said,
Lisa has a question, yes.
yes. So you said that it was to cover the payroll taxes. It's to cover the payroll.
Well, it's a refund of the payroll taxes, and we're going to use it to cover the payroll for that position, yes.
It wasn't just the taxes. It was, right, they paid us back for keeping people on, so it paid us back their wages too, right?
I think it's just the taxes, just the payroll taxes, but it's still a significant amount of money, right? Okay, so is there any other questions before we move on? Karen?
I just want to make sure that, oh yeah. I just want to make sure that people know that that will be applied towards 1 year plus another, part of a second year. Because she does work part-time.
It's more than the salary for this year. We'll use the balance as a down payment, you might say, on the same position next year. Any other questions? And of course, the point of this is that it keeps us from having to utilize land sale funds, which, as you'll see in a few minutes, is something that we're becoming pretty sensitive to, and we need to begin changing the way that we use these funds going forward. But if there's no other questions, let's keep going. So I'm calling this a reality check because I just think it's something that, again, we committed to do, to be transparent with the congregation and just be frank about where we are with our finances. And there are some things that we need to share. So before I go into these, you're going to see some red numbers, some negative numbers. But I want to point out, this is not like some crazy alarm bell that we're ringing. It's very important that we focus on these things and the need to reduce our deficits. We'll talk about that soon. But as you all know, just from today's service, just from what you're seeing all around us, we're doing really well. We've got new people coming, we're growing, and what we're doing here is really just our best estimates of what we need to do to continue that process forward. So we're in a great place. We do have some issues we need to deal with, but I want to just make sure everyone understands it's not like we're in a crisis here. If we're not careful, perhaps we will be in the future, but that's what we're doing here now, is looking to change things a little bit, steer that course a little bit more conservatively so that we don't hit that shoal water a year or 2 or 3 down the road. Okay? So what we're doing is we're starting a process where we're going to focus more on reducing our annual budget deficits. And it's something that we've all been aware of. I mean, we've known for some years, especially as we went through the COVID era, and times were tough. And but it's time for us to just kind of be honest about where we are and just look at it honestly and focus on this as a problem for us to solve. We're also going to be doing everything that we can to preserve what's left of the land sale funds. We'll talk about how much that is in a minute. But so let's move on here. So we're going to be focusing on reducing deficits. We're going to be focusing on preserving land sale funds. And we're going to begin this process of shifting away from capital projects, which we began 2 years ago, sooner than we expected. This time last year when we did round 2, we talked about the need eventually to shift away from capital projects and rely more on a kind of normal pattern for funding needs, for building maintenance, improvements, and so on, which is to use reserve funds. And we started a process again last year to populate those reserve funds with some money. The part of the vote last year was to put $25,000 into a new operating reserve. So that money has been there this year and will be part of what we'll be tapping. But this was one of the things, for those of you who were here 2 years ago, when we had the listening circles related to the land sales, what are we going to do with it? What do we want to do? Rebuilding our reserves was one of the goals that many people identified as very important. And so that's something we're following up on. And so now we're going to be relying on those and making the shift to that mode of financing more for the future. So what it means is you'll see fewer capital projects. We have 2 on the list for today. But we're going to try to avoid doing this and use alternate funds for these needs because of what information we're going to share. We've done some research that's been showing our deficits really are too large. And we haven't had a consistent definition of our deficits, but it's important that we do that now going forward. There have been various ways of looking at it, but we've become dependent on the land sale funds, the principal especially, in order to make ends meet. And that's a process we want to try to eliminate or at least reduce. And here's what we'll want to do instead, is shift from using principal to relying on earned interest. Because if we continue to eat essentially our seed corn, of course there won't be any left before just a couple of years go by. But if we learn to rely on interest, then we will be in a better shape and be able to still have most of the funds we now retain in the land sale fund, the balance of land sale funds, and be in a much better position down the road when we get to that point where we've reduced dramatically or eliminated, hopefully, our annual operating budget deficits. So let's take a look at these numbers. This is probably a lot of numbers, but please don't be worried about remembering these. Well, the research that we did showed a pattern that I think has been maybe not as visible as it should be. And that is that we have had significant operating budget deficits for a number of years. Again, lots of different reasons. COVID was a huge factor here. And we're Again, only going back to 2016 because that's where we have the data at the point where we switched into the online version of QuickBooks, which is how we track funds. And of course, prior years, those of you who've been around, our membership was back in 2015, 2014. We were a rather large church, 250 members, even higher at one point. But we've had some lean years, and that's continued in the years since we sold our land. We've had to dip into the principal for land sale as well as interest to close the deficit gap in 2023, again last year. And this year, we've been able to rely only on interest from the land sale balance to make the biggest dip in or reduction in our deficit. But here's the key thing that you need to know. When we approved the budget in December, we actually had we were $42,000 shy of expenses. That's a lot. What we did was apply, and everyone voted on this, apply interest earned in 2024. That brought the deficit down to 15,000, and now we still have this 11,000 left. So we're doing well. We're on the path that we want to be on, where we're using interest rather than principal to cover our debts. That's a much better approach. It's a better approach strategically. It will position us better in the future. It will mean that we're going to need to be more careful and parsimonious, you might say, on the improvements that we do. We've done a good bit of spending of the land sale funds over the past couple of years. And, and we'll talk about that in a minute, to do the things that we needed. We needed fixing up this church. We needed the seats that are in Salisbury and here. We needed a lot of improvements. There are improvements in both of our gatherings. And these were very much needed things, and there's more to come. Some of those are still in the works, and they're continue to be utilized. But it's time, I think, to take a different approach. So because of this, I want to take a short detour and just bring this up. At the last board meeting, we agreed, because we still have this deficit remaining, we want to ask everybody to just take a moment sometime in the next week or two and reconsider your financial commitment to the church. If you can, we ask that anyone who is able to please consider increasing your pledge for the current year. We still have faced this $11,000 deficit. And if that's not possible, if there are times over the course of the next 6 months where you have some additional money that you could contribute, just episodically as time goes by, that's also very welcome. So this is certainly an optional thing, but we're asking everyone to consider it, and we thank you for any improvements that you can do, because we still have a ways to go. Okay, back to the larger question. Here's where we stand right now on this land sale fund. Again, this is money that came from the sale of land. We've used it to do a number of things that we've needed to do. And once we retired the mortgage at the beginning of 2023, we were left with about $708,000. That's a really good sum of money to work with. And what we've done since then is spend about $136,000 on all these projects that you've seen around you. The painting and improvements in the meeting house. If you haven't been in the meeting house in 6 months or the better part of a year, you haven't seen the kitchen yet. You need to go see it. It looks much better. So there have been a lot of improvements that are needed. I mean, I love these chairs. I'm very comfortable sitting through service today. And we have the same chairs in Salisbury. These are the things that we did with these funds, as well as underwrite the hiring of the LRE coordinator. So these are things that we've done so far. We have projects that are still in place where we have commitments of about $68,000. And so right now, what we've spent is about $200,000, and at the moment we have about $500,000 left. So we're doing pretty well. But it's important as we go forward from today, that we try to do everything we can to preserve that balance, because that's what's helping us get through every year's gap in operating budget deficits. So it's important that we do that. We preserve that. And just as an example, when we started the year, we had a whole long list of capital projects that we were considering. We had a good list that Harry Lancaster's been working on with the building committee. Jim's been involved. Perry, I think you've been involved. Carl, others have been involved in figuring out actual dollar estimates for some of the improvements that the Giles Flythe engineering firm recommended that we do to fix up structural and other problems around our buildings. For example, I mean, there's a whole list of things. We want to replace the pavers out front. We need to improve the steps on the meeting house, possibly replace that handicapped ramp. We've got work to do on these weatherproofing these pillars that are holding up the roof here. We've got spalling concrete in various corners. We've got a whole lot of things, as well as some system replacements that you're going to hear about in a minute, particularly HVAC. Lisa's got a question?
Yeah, so is the roof leak, I see that we still have buckets at the roof level. Is that included in what's already been allocated or what's coming up?
It'll be on the one of the slides coming up. So hold on to that question if you would. But I'm just pointing this out by way of saying this is what the path we were on to spend an additional possibly, I mean, we probably wouldn't have spent that much, but this is what we started the year with, a list of possible projects for round 3 that totaled almost $200,000. So if we don't take a new path and we continue on the path of just making all these improvements that we'd love to do, they're good improvements, we need them, but we've done the things that are most important. And right now, the key is we've got to preserve this balance right here. So we're not going to go down the path of this path here, and what we're going to do instead is hit the brakes. We're going to be taking a much more careful approach to these capital projects, raise the bar higher than we have in the past, just because, you know, there's nothing wrong with the projects we've done. We've needed them. I mean, for heaven's sake, all this landscaping out here is part of what we've done. It's been great improvements. A lot of that was from donations from members. Thank you to particular members. But we've got to slow down this pace and actually redefine the way that we decide which ones we need to go forward with. And this is just a beginning, you know, working definition. Perhaps we should only use land sale principle for needs that just can't be funded any other way. So we're going to try to not use these funds for projects you'll see in a minute, but the point is, if there are things that have to be done that cannot be funded another way, one of them we think is the HVAC here, you'll see in a minute, then that's one where we may have to dip into the land sale funds. So we're going to seek alternatives, as we've talked about. We'll use these reserve funds. We'll manage this month to month. That's the idea. Preserve every dollar we can to maximize interest. And we're going to be doing this through the Finance Committee, which is the natural place for this kind of process to look at unbudgeted needs, anything that comes up. You heard Karen talk about and others talk about safety improvements around our campuses. That's something that came up right at the beginning of the year. It wasn't in any budget. We had to find some funds. These kinds of things happen every year. Things that were unanticipated, new needs, new ideas, things maybe go a little over. So we're looking at this as a way to consolidate all of the unbudgeted needs that we face each year and manage this in a careful process through the Finance Committee. So we're counting on this, on the growth that we've already experienced. We're in a good place, but we're going to try to use this conservative approach until we've reduced or eliminated deficits. That's our key challenge right now, is getting rid of that red ink. How long will that take? Anybody's guess is as good as mine. It seems to me we're likely to need to do this for at least 2 years. It may be longer. But we'll be watching this and reporting back to the members as we go. This is just an illustration of the tool that one tool we could use. This will be in Sue's hands, and she'll talk here in just a minute about this. It's simply a way of tracking what alternate funds we have, like a building and capital reserve, and then an operating reserve. We have different reserve funds. And so, come on, clicker. Here we go. So Sue, would you like to, where did she go? Here we go. She's just going to say a few words here. I'd like you all to hear her talk.
Is there any way to zoom that? Zoom it.
Oh, just
larger.
It's really detailed. What I suggest is if anyone's interested in that tool, it can actually be done with paper. I mean, I just did it in a spreadsheet. But if you want to attend finance committee meetings, I'm sorry, I'm taking Sue's words.
That's okay.
Then you'll be able to see this and work with it any month you'd like to come to finance. So Sue, please.
I can share it with you. I can share it with
I
you.
thought for everybody else,
It's just a sample is all it is.
Hi, my name is Susan Ellerman. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee. And I will say before I got into this side of things, I certainly did not understand what was going on. And I'm really glad, Neil, that you're trying to make it very clear to the congregation, because I went all those years without really even caring much. But anyway, for all of you to be involved, we have an email that was lying kind of dormant. And any of your questions, we take suggestions. No idea is too stupid, okay? And nor question. And comments. So if you see me, my feet are still not very wet, So I may say to you, I have to get back to you on that. But if you email, I'll certainly make sure that I see the right person very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it. So part of what we're doing with this kind of approach is really to surface the kinds of things that most members don't know about except once a year when we approve a budget. Now, those of you who've been, I think, Lisa, you've been treasurer. Is Alan here? There may be some other former treasurers. You all know what it's like when you're in that position. And you get to January and you got your budget set and you're trying to track things. And all of a sudden, hey, treasurer, we need some money for this. Hey, treasurer, can you find us some money? We got to do this. And so on. Every year that happens. And what we're doing here is part of a move to make that all more transparent. So all of those needs will be on a sheet like this. Again, it could be in paper, it could be in a spreadsheet. And the sources of funds will be visible to everybody. And again, anyone can participate and be part of these discussions. Sue's also looking for members to be on that committee, sort of permanent members. So that's the idea behind this. We're trying to get this stuff in a more visible place where everybody can see, any month, this is what's going on. This is what we need. These are the funds we have available. We're going to make the best decisions we can month by month. Okay, so now we're moving on to capital projects. Do you want me to introduce these, or would you like to?
Whatever.
Well, I can just talk about them as we go. So that was basically the this sort of new approach we're taking for church finances. It's time for us to move on to the actual capital projects we need everyone to vote on. But before we do, are there any remaining questions about this process that anyone would like to ask? Yes.
So I have a question that was texted in about the balance of proposed projects that you showed. Can you put that back up? Okay. And it looks like there's just maybe an extra number there at the end. There was a question about the true number.
That 2 is an extraneous number.
Okay, so,
The 297 is correct, yes.
okay.
The
So-
297 is the actual number. My apologies.
Okay, so the 309, 287?
I'm sorry?
297, 309, 297.
297, yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so let's move on to the vote for today on round 3 capital projects. Here are the projects that the board has recommended, and this went through the finance committee and of course myself. And so the very first one is a big one. Based on work that, again, the Building and Grounds group did, they're estimating that it's probably going to cost about $34,000 to replace the main HVAC system in this building. And I'm going to rely on Jim here to back me up. But what we're talking about is the original system that was put into this building in the 1990s when it was built. It's this one right here, correct, Jim? That feeds these big circular outlets?
Right. That's right. The air handler is in the mechanical room beyond the storage room here. And it's the big air conditioner, which puts air down through these vents right now. But then there's also a furnace above the ceiling in that storage room, which is part of the system. And this system was installed either 28 or 30 years ago.
Thank you, Jim. Now, I'm going to ask everyone to do a quick round of applause for Jim, because Jim and some others are the people who've been keeping this running ever since. Ever since. Thank you to all, for Jim and others who've been part of the process of keeping this system running. The engineers told us this is way beyond normal life. So here's the idea. We need the funds to replace this at possibly, we're hoping, the very last minute. So we're going to try to actually get through this summer. And so far, I mean, here we are, the 100-degree days here. If we can make it through the next couple of days, we may be able to get through the summer. And then maybe next year we can figure out a way to do, I don't know, a fundraiser, some way, get some grants to defray the amount of money that we take from the land sale funds. So we're asking for the congregation to approve this amount, but we're going to try to see if we can at least reduce the impact on land sale balance or eliminate it. It may not be possible, but we know this. If you all approve this, we'll know these funds are here, available, in case this thing breaks down tomorrow. Okay, so that's the idea, because it could. The next one is the project that Lisa talked about. We have, again, Jim and others have been keeping this roof, literally doing their repairs themselves. Carl, you've been involved too, I know you have, and others as well, in keeping the leak to a minimum above this clerestory window here. And there are buckets, as you can see. And Mel was guessing that those were intended for any errant members to ask them to stand under the bucket, and no, that's not quite what it is. It's to collect rainwater that leaks through. So there's a contract that we've actually gone ahead and signed because we needed to get on this the schedule for the contractor who had the very best price, Paul Gale. And so we're expecting that this repair will take place at the end of this year, November, December. It possibly may slip until January, but we're on track to get this done. Now, here's the first challenge for the Finance Committee and me as well, of course, and anybody who wants to participate. If you think about that spreadsheet we had, we've got a few dollars in the Building and Capital Reserve, which is intended for these kind of projects. And depending on how we prioritize, we may be able to cover this cost with those funds. But again, it's a matter of balancing needs and making a judgment. So just like the first one, we need to know that these funds are available, which is why we're asking the congregation to approve this. It's almost like if this is needed, we need to be able to count on this source of money to make sure that we can get this roof repaired. So these are the two projects. And then we have one other request from the membership. And that is, as you've heard me talk about, there are a number of projects in round one, round two. Some of those continue. And some of them, we're thinking, some of them have just a few dollars left in them. And they don't seem to be very active right now. And some of them we're thinking may not be needed. So we're looking for the congregation's okay to go ahead and close those out, reclaim those funds so we don't spend them from the land sale balance, and take care of any needs like that in the process that we've just laid out through the Finance Committee. And let me give you an example. We had a project from this time last year for professional fees. We asked for $10,000. We've used only about $1,000 of that. And it was meant for things like the project that Harry just got done in the last few weeks with a surveyor to get our land surveyed, because now it's different from the land that we purchased, because we have two lots and we took off parts of both of them. And so now we need, our, legal description, topographic information, everything. So that survey is due to come to the board in the next week or so. And so we're able to cover that with this building and capital reserve. So that's the kind of thing we're looking to do. So maybe we can just take that project off the books. And that's the kind of thing we're asking for the membership to approve. Because if you remember, again, 2 years ago, following those listening circles, the board committed that any use of land sale funds would come to a vote before the membership. So that's why we're here. And so we're looking for permission to save money, not spend it, if we can see a way to avoid it. So that's what the three questions are: 2 capital projects for things that we definitely need these 2, and the one request for permission to not spend money, basically. So Karen, I'm going to turn it back over to Karen.
And before you change that slide, I just want everybody to know that we're going to be voting for $34,445, not, there's a zero there. So we will remove the zero.
Another.
Just so you know.
Yes.
Canadian accounting.
Yeah. So basically, I'm going to call the vote.
Wait, question.
Just a minute. Go, guys. Give me a minute. Thank you. I have a screen for that.
So
Questions before the vote.
I have a question related to that third point.
Want to go back?
Yeah, please.
Oh, great. What is it with this thing? I'm going to leave it with you. Okay, questions?
So the authority to close out previously approved capital projects, I'm seeing that if they're substantially complete or you identify alternative funding, I get that. But I also thought I heard you say something about if we decide not to do them. So I'm asking, what are we deciding not to do that we previously approved? And is this giving authority for you guys to not do what we already approved?
Yeah. If I said that, my apologies, I didn't mean that. It's not something, there's really no cases that I can think of. Can anyone else?
No.
Where we're only talking about projects that are hanging out with, $1,000, $1,200 in them, $500, or projects like the professional fees project that we think we don't need to reserve capital funds for, land sale funds, because we can manage them the way we did the survey work.
So it's not a question of not doing it's just a question of which way we
Correct.
finance
And
it.
also,
Yes.
there are people who have actually come to us and told us they don't need their money anymore, so we would like permission to close that out. And also, we would never close out a project without asking the person who wrote the proposal.
Did you have a question? Yes.
I have a question texted in asking about how much money we've made off the interest in the CDs from the land sale this year.
Okay, if you remember the dollar figure we had for the beginning of this year, the actual operating budget deficit was about $40-some thousand. We applied almost $27,000 worth of interest earned on the balance of land sale funds last year to this year's operating budget. So that's a dramatic amount. Now, we've since spent money, so we may not have the same interest income this year, but it's a significant amount. And let me just tell you where that comes from. When the land sale closed and the mortgage was retired, Steve Whitfield, who was president, and Lisa, who was treasurer, did, I think, one of the best things we've done in terms of money management, which is to put most of the money from that sale into 2 CDs of $250,000 apiece, because that's the maximum amount that the FDIC will insure. Now, that's what happens is every anniversary, 6 months or a year, and they're now on 1-year cycles, interest is paid out that is guaranteed. That's the benefit of a CD approach. Of course, you can possibly make more money in a market-based investment, but you can also lose money. And I think this has been a very wise use of these funds because it provides that guaranteed interest, and that's been pivotal to us over the course of these past few years. Do you think that answers the question, Diane? Lisa?
Yeah, so I was thinking of an example of a project that we decided not to do. It's not exactly a project. We had voted on improving the entryway, the atrium, and it called for carpeting, and we said, we don't want carpeting, so that was freed up some funds. So I think the vote would allow the board to do, to use those funds for something else, or to reduce.
Which is what happened, yes.
Yes.
Yes, those funds were used for something else, yes. Jack has a question.
Yeah, number 2, I'd like a little explanation on what a diverter is. And is this like it sounds to me like it's kind of a stopgap approach. Is this something that is because we have an old roof and this is just a temporary, or how will this help, and what's the future cost?
Yeah, Jim can talk about this, but this is a permanent fix. This is the idea, it's a permanent fix. Jim?
So, unfortunately, even though we have a nice sloping roof, the last 2 feet before the clear story here is flat. And as water comes down and it collects along the clear story. And for years we've tried to patch, but a little water comes down as you see the buckets. Now, the current code requires that if you have a chimney more than 30 inches wide, so 30 inches wide, you must have a cricket or a diverter, which is a V shape that sends the water away from the chimney. Well, this clear story is more than 30 inches. It's only 24 feet. So the plan is to have a diverter, a cricket, that sends the water away from the flat roof of the clear story, and we shouldn't have problems like this for 60 years.
Was that clear to everybody? It's a V-shaped water diverter that will route water away from this window.
So it's a specific issue with that flat roof. The
Correct.
rest of the roof is in good shape?
It'll go 50 more years.
Yeah. I knew Jim wanted to explain that, so.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you,
you.
Jim. Thank you, Jack. Any other questions?
Okay. Then I'm going to move that we adopt these 3 proposals by the Finance Committee. Second. It's actually by the board. And the second is where?
Here.
Diane, do you have a second? Cosette? All right, all of those of you in favor, please raise your hand.
It's under text.
All those in saying no, raise your hand. For those of you who are texting, please give us your name, first name, last name, and your yes or your no. Okay.
So we're waiting for a vote total. Do we need that, Diane, or do you have any no's?
No no's, but, okay, several yeses.
So are we waiting?
I'm not sure. I think that's kind of up to you.
Robin? Oh, okay, we have another yes.
Yeah, we have lots of yeses, no no's.
Okay, then you want to have closing words? Or do you want me to do it?
Did you, because I was going to do the challenge. Motion.
Oh, okay, I'll do that, okay. We want to thank you so much for attending, for your vote, and I love this line in the order of service today, that you are counted among the hopers and the doers. That's a great line. All right, we will say we're going to recite my poem that I brought to you this morning as a closing. Our faith, like a light, illuminates the path before us so that we can face hurt with love, cultivate compassion, live humbly in community, and confront despair with the awe of life. Though our flame is extinguished, our faith shines bright before us. Thank you. And I guess we can, I've never done this.
Just a blow. Meeting adjourned?
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. The previous picture, oh, thank you for bringing that up. The previous picture is two of Betsy's pictures. This is the new website person that we hired, and the one on the left is obviously Salisbury. The one on the right is us in a big circle. And, oh, wait till you look forward to her pictures and the website. That'll be cool.
Karen,
There's some confusion over text as to whether that last motion passed. Can you just say it into the microphone?
The last motion has passed. The three financial proposals have passed.